I'm Kelly Sadler, and this is Politically Unstable. This week, we're joined by General Keith Kellogg, who is a former National Security Advisor to Vice President Mike Pence. He's also the co-chairman of the Center for American Security at AFPI. Welcome, General.
Kelly, thanks for having me. Good to be with you.
Now, Joe Biden just returned from Israel. As we know, there's a hot war going on there with the terrorist organization Hamas. Do you think that it was smart for Joe Biden to go to Israel at this time, and what was accomplished?
Well, it's a great question because I think he had planned on going over there, not just talking to Prime Minister Netanyahu, but he was going to go on to Amman, Jordan, and he was going to talk to the Jordanian king. He was going to talk to Abbas from the Palestinian Authority, and he was going to talk to al-Sisi of Egypt as well. And they all broke contact with him. They canceled out. So I think it's one of those events, being in the White House, where you're actually projected forward because you've already got the plan going, and then you have to go to see Netanyahu, which was good, but was bad as the others dropped out. And then the other one was, well, look, he didn't even go and even attempt to go talk to Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, in Saudi Arabia, the crown prince, who's going to be very, very important in this whole discussion as well with the Palestinians and what's happening with Hamas and potentially what's happening from Hezbollah. So it's kind of a mixed bag, Kelly. In other words, he had to go do it. He did it. It was good he went and talked to Netanyahu. The downside is they canceled on him. Now, I will tell you what he should have done, very honestly, is when they canceled on him, those three, he should have said, okay, just for the record, let's get this one right. To Jordan, we give you about $1.5 billion a year. To Egypt, we give you about $3.5 billion a year. And with the Palestinian Authority, we did away with what Trump was doing, which was giving you no money. And we're giving you about $250 million a year, which is actually in violation of the Tyler Force Act that was passed by Congress. So he didn't do that. He just kind of said, okay, they don't want to talk to me. I think that was the mistake he made, Kelly.
Well, last week you wrote a column for us, and it was really about peace through strength and what you guys did during the Trump administration, which led to no Middle East wars, right? There was peace coming out from the Abraham Accords. Given where we are right now and everything that Joe Biden undid from the Trump administration, and you just mentioned a few of them, he reinstated Palestinian aid, which then funneled, $200 million into Hamas. He tried to get back into the, nuclear deal that Trump pulled us out of, which, and he still isn't mentioning Iran in any of his public speeches to this day. And we all know that they are the number one proxy behind Hamas. So tell us what you would do if you were back in the White House, what advice you would be giving the National Security Council to get us out of this mess as quickly as possible.
Yeah, well, honestly, Kelly, very candidly, we wouldn't have been in this mess if we were in the last administration. So I've got to fast forward to get here, probably give you advice, give them advice they wouldn't take anyway. Here's the big player. We've got to let Israel handle Hamas in any way they see is necessary to do so. Remind everybody, 30 Americans, blue passport holders, are dead. And there's over a dozen missing. And Israel's got to figure a way, and it's going to be a tough fight, of how to eliminate Hamas leadership. Not the Palestinian people, but the Hamas leadership, which is a terrorist organization. And what we need to do is backstop. And what I mean by backstop, that's the reason why you've got the Ford carrier strike group there, the Eisenhower carrier strike groups coming in. You've got the Bataan amphibious ready group coming in as well. And we need to tell Iran, if something happens to the north, and we know your hands are dirty, and they haven't even admitted that, this administration, but they are. And if you don't believe that, I got a pretty good bridge in Brooklyn to give you. You've got to tell them, don't reach out, because we can reach out and touch you. And not so much aircraft, and I've said this a lot of times, what that task force on the waters of the Eastern Med gives you, because they've got guided missile cruisers and guided missile destroyers, they carry about 600 or more Tomahawk land attack missiles. They can reach out to Tehran from there. They can reach out to Fordo, their nuclear site. They can reach out to any of their refineries and say, we're going to reach out and touch you because we know you're involved with this. We know your hands are dirty. They won't admit it, but we know they are. And then that gives Israel time to work with Hamas and keeps the northern area kind of free from Hezbollah coming in. Because my concern is what's going to happen is once they go into Gaza, the Israelis, that potentially opens up another front because the military is now engaged. And once you're engaged in an urban fight like that will happen in Gaza, it is a tough door-to-door, floor-to-floor fight a pistol range kind of fight, and you're really committing your forces pretty hard. The Israelis did this in 2014. They went in, they spent about a month. They didn't do what they should have done and clean Hamas out. But we've got to give them the ability to do that, or we kind of, for lack of a better term, hold their coats and protect their flanks. And that's what I tell us to do right now. But I send a very clear message through some means to Iran of do not get involved. Iran's making a lot of noise,
Yeah.
and they're doing a lot of talking. Remember that when they killed one American, we killed Soleimani.
Yeah.
And tell them very clearly, we know where you live, we know where to find you, we can reach out and touch you at any time. Don't do it.
And what about the hostage situation?
Yeah.
So there's 199 hostages that we don't really know the status of. We don't really know where they are. We have many of them are Americans. How do we get our people out?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be brutally frank with you, Kelly. The potential of getting them out may not really be good. I mean, we really do have some of the best hostage trained, but not only negotiators like Robert O'Brien was, but also the assault kind of forces that you have with JSOC, with Delta and SEAL Team 6. You've got the British 22nd SAS as well. And then you've got Sarah Matkal, the Israeli unit. They can do it. But the problem is we don't know where they're at. They're probably in the tunnels, which are underneath Gaza City. They're probably kept at different locations. It's going to be tough to find them all. And if you're holding up an offensive military operation until you get to them, I think it's a mistake. And what I'm telling you, and that's the brutal truth behind it, we're probably going to lose a lot of those hostages because they're not going to let them up. When the fight starts, they could kill them. They could, basically execute them. But you have to look at the bigger goal, which they've got, which is defeat Hamas. It's a hard thing to say. Your heart goes out to them. But if you just rely on constantly thinking about getting the hostages out, you're actually trapped in the moment, and you need to break free of that. It's a hard, cold, calculated decision. I do not envy the Israelis at all, but it's something they're going to have to think about and have to execute either with it or through it. At the same time, they're trying to get them out. That's probably the reason by the way, why they're probably holding up on that offensive operation is they're trying to figure out, can we find the hostages? Can we get them out? But that in itself is a fight. So it's going to be a tough watch for all of us to see. But I will tell you, steel yourself. You're going to see some pretty bad looking scenes that come out of Gaza in the next few days, in the next couple of weeks.
So one of the things, and this is looking back, was that there seems to be security breaches, intelligence breaches. How did this all happen? How were the Israelis taken so off guard? There's been multiple theories batted about. One is that there was a cyber attack with perhaps but Hamas didn't look as technically savvy to do this by themselves. Yeah. Do you think that there's any other foreign actors like China or Russia, in addition to Iran, that's helping Hamas out?
Sometimes the easiest answer is the most simple answer. And I think they look at the United States, and now I'm talking about the Iranians now, in supporting both Hezbollah and Hamas. And they kind of say, look, the reason we lost Soleimani is we were high tech. We listened in on them. We've got electronic intelligence. We have signals intelligence. We have human intelligence. I think they're going to find long term, they went low tech. They went back to the way we used to do business, which is couriers, man to man, handwritten stuff. No telephones, no electronics at all. They went quiet because this surprised everybody. I don't think there was a yield because if you're getting jammed, if you're getting a cyber attack pretty well with the systems that we have in place. I just think what happened is they got smart. They went asymmetric on us. They went low tech, and this is exactly what happened. And they were able to spring in a very sophisticated type of attack, spring an attack into the South. Look, what they did was really smart. When you think about not only breaching the walls and taking out the observation towers, but they also attacked those 3 Israeli military sites simultaneously, which allowed those assault forces to break into those homes within 20 or 25 miles deep in some cases, to be able to go after the kibbutzes. So it's really unfortunate, but it's how they did it. That's really, they're not sophisticated. They, Hamas, are not sophisticated enough to do it. That's the reason I think they needed outside help to plan for it and the execution. Now, the only people who can do that, honestly, in that region right now, is the Quds force out of Iran.
Okay. Now, we ran a piece the other day questioning what role Qatar is playing here. We know that they all of the top Hamas terrorists live in Qatar, and they give them security. At the same time, they also want to negotiate. They say that it's an advantageous relationship for the U.S. because we can negotiate with these terrorists and we can communicate with them. What role do you think Qatar is going to be playing moving in the future? And do they have to pick sides? They can't just be our ally at one time and then our enemy at another.
Yeah, I would kind of tell Qatar, okay, show me what you can do. Prove that you can do something. The second thing I'd say to them is, you are harboring terrorists. And if I was in a position to do so, I would say to our intelligence agencies, or you tell the Israelis, go get them. These people are thugs. They're supporting a terrorist organization, not Qatar, but the Palestinian authorities or Hamas leadership that's there. My belief is that they have forfeited their right to exist by doing what they did in Israel. And I would say to the Israelis, go after them. We'll help you any way we can. And I tell Qatar, don't get in their way. And it's basically saying, if you said you can support getting the American hostages out, then show us. Otherwise, we're going to have to take a step back and say, we're our friends, who are really our friends in the Middle East, and we're going to take accounting for it. Remember, this administration's kind of done it to themselves. Yeah. What I mean by that, Kelly, is they've tried to normalize relations with Iran. We didn't. What I mean? Let's talk Palestinian Authority. We took all the money away from the Palestinian Authority, primarily because of the Taylor Force Act. And this administration gave them another $250 million. Yeah. That's a mistake. And
well, they just gave them another $100 million too. That's what was Biden's parting gift.
Yeah. So, this is one of those where we're supporting terrorism by giving it to them, and we're supporting Iran by having normalization of relations. 12 days ago, their parliament stood up and chanted as a group, "Death to America, death to Israel." Years ago, Golda Meir once said, if somebody says they want to kill you, believe them. And I think they want to.
Well, General, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I really appreciate it. And to all the viewers out there, we're signing off, but we'll be back next week with another episode.